Hello and welcome to Celis's Desert Odyssey. So, if you look at the video length, you will certainly be a little alarmed. To be fair, I am combining the arena and Yied castle together in one video, but even so, this is ridiculously long and very little is happening. So yeah. Here's one of the few things that happen. Celis gets promoted, yay! Those stats aren't as high as they look. Even though it said 15 there, for some reason the promotion screen takes into account the ring bonuses. So yeah, Celis only has one stat that's as high as 10. He's terrible. Sorry. But he's just bad. Thankfully with a high kill hero sword he can still do a lot of terrible things. We think, however, is not bad. He's going to just clear the whole arena with his iron cutter like a boss. Anyways, so I'm doing a little bit of item management here, trading around. Orpheus doing that because he's an important unit, meaning he's going to need to juggle around ring items. And Celis clears the arena because he can. So Orphe needs the hero sword primarily to get more kills on it, because Celis isn't going to be doing anything besides running over to Yied. And also because he needs it to kill Bloom later on. Yes, seems a bit weird, but Orphe actually completely murders Bloom later on. It'll be your first introduction to the ridiculousness of the hero sword. So, item management. I'm giving everyone a stronger item when I can. The sword twins, the hero sword for hero axe for Johalva, and so on, simply because most of this chapter will be a two-man show between Celis and Orphe. Well, mainly just Orphe. But there is one part where I need the entire chump brigade to do most of a castle by themselves, which they really struggle with. 0% growth. You know, Badney and Roddlebad got their names for a reason, but I'm just giving them whatever I can. There are going to be a lot of deaths in that segment. I'm looking forward to it. So to all you Roddlebad fanboys out there, I'm sorry. Oh wait. He doesn't have any fanboys. Anyways. So yeah. So I'm selling the warp staff here for a tiny bit of like warp/return juggling later on which allows me to save a turn at the end. That's important there. So this is a very boring chapter, which you see from the 22-minute 30 video where I have very little to say. If there's one video to play through you want to skip, make it this one. There's really not much going on. But the exciting thing is, this chapter is very annoying because it's so non-linear, and you have to run all over the place with Celis, and warp doesn't help make it any faster. Which means that the map is less limited by how good a strategist you are past a certain point, and more limited by how fast Celis can move. Which makes for a really boring map pretty much all the time, especially on a low turn count playthrough with growths. However, it allows me, with a little bit of playing around, to actually match the minimum turn count of this chapter with growths on 0% growths, which is quite impressive. Well, technically not the minimum. On growths you could do some General Horse witchcraft with getting Leaf promoted before the end of the chapter, but, you know. Anyway, so you'll notice that I chose to leave Tristan behind to be the RNG ape. He's a substitute character. I don't know though. Alec is kind of a womanizer. I wouldn't be surprised if in one of his random womanizing sprees, Alec actually impregnated Tristan's mother, because they're completely identical in terms of what they do. It might seem like a bit silly to have him do it when I could have one of the bad sword twins, but as much as I joke around, the sword twins aren't too bad. Like, they have solid base stats and pursuit, whereas Tristan doesn't. And maybe I could rig crits, but I'm also not sure if he can tank or dodge as well, which is also, well, he definitely can't because sibling bonus, and also because later on, in a part that I'll come to, being able to rig sibling crits could come in great use, so he stays behind. Daisy looked like she should have died there, but thankfully she did not, because she has the prayer skill. Unfortunately, you don't see her making much use out of that this playthrough. She was due with Bargain. She could definitely mess around with buying 1 to 2 range weapons and taking advantage of it, but unfortunately she doesn't, so she can't buy and sell weapons and items without losing anything. Well, I should probably talk about my new units. Shannon, really good, high base stats. Can use the Balmung, which is essentially whole SETI if it were a sword, like exactly, same stat boost and so on. Maybe a slightly higher weight, but the thing is, though, he's not used that often because the typical issue in Fire Emblem 4, you don't want to use non-mounted units. But I mean, hey, he has to. A few times I do actually have to need him, but the cavalry in this generation stays strong for longer. They have some higher base stats, and those who don't have higher base stats, such as Celis, have access to ridiculous items like the Hero Sword. So a little note on the AI, because there's a bit of strategy in this castle going on, even though it's mostly just running around, is that in the last turn, Lester was actually in range of a Dark Mage who would one-shot him at 100% hit rate, but he chose not to. They can also one-shot Celis, which seems risky, but I'm not going to make any blanket statements against the AI of Fire Emblem 4 because there are always exceptions. I don't know if there's something weird on like a character-by-character basis, but for some reason in this chapter, or at least with the Dark Mages, the AI seems to prioritize attacking a unit who can't theoretically counterattack over anything else, even when they have a 100% hit rate, and will one-shot them, such as with Lester. So they keep on going for Oife instead of Celis, who has the light sword, or Lester, who has the bow, even though they could one-shot both of them. So this makes this part a lot more reliable, because they keep on going for Oife, who can dodge and doesn't get one-shotted. So just a little tidbit about the AI. It's really weird because there are exceptions. This isn't a consistent rule, because you have ridiculous stuff like how, remember in the first few chapters, when hand-axe users had the option to attack Midir at 1 range or 2 range, they attacked them at 2 range, and archers like to attack Midir. So, I've lost a lot of time to talk about things, so it seems like something I didn't discuss earlier, it'll come up later. So I didn't give Shan the Balmung immediately because I wanted to give Patty more freedom to run around and steal money, because she's going to need to money dump Layla. She's like to in this generation, perhaps better because she can clear arenas with the bullshit of the sleep sword when you're choosing to rig. But yeah. And the reason I'm moving Shannon over there is because on a normal playthrough, because those 2 enemies that are attacking me actually pose a major threat to completing this castle in the minimum number of turns. On normal playthrough, Celis will just laugh as he swats both of them aside. However, Celis is bad, and he can't one-round them, meaning they will get in his path. So I need to send enemies over to bait them out so that they continue to charge towards Shannon and Daisy instead of bothering Celis and blocking his way and ultimately preventing the best finish. So that's why I'm doing that. Also, another thing that makes this even more complicated is on a normal playthrough, Celis can kind of just slap the boss and kill him, and can't do this. If he had the Hero Sword, he might be able to. I'd have to rig a dodge, which would be unreliable, but I could do it most likely. But I need Oife to have the Hero Sword instead of Celis for certain kills. And now Celis is mostly done fighting, and he is off to journey in the desert, in the mystical Yied desert, off on a long journey where he will discover the meaning of life and many other things. Yeah, you know, if any of you guys watching aren't a big fan of Fire Emblem 4, I disagree with you, but this map is probably the best argument you could make, or at least this part of it. It's like, seriously? Your lord is spending 15 turns, including Malgan, just charging around while everyone else does very little, just to spread out enemies. These mages are kind of scary on 0% growths because they can one-shot most of my units, but normally they're just a joke because there aren't many of them. It's like, okay, that maybe wasn't the best idea. Like, it's even worse than chapter, well, I've disliked chapter 6 more because no RNG abuse, sadly. But it's like, it's worse than chapter 2 even, because chapter 2 is massive and all over the place and so much backtracking. But at least there's always stuff going on, whereas here it's just like, ugh. And there is stuff going on here with Leaf going around, but just tedious me moving on my unit. So now I should probably get to Leaf, as he has been doing things for a while. Leaf is one of the most important units of this run. Normally he's a complete beast, he sucks with 0% crits in terms of stats, but just like Lachesis, and even Jan too, the substitute unit I got, no mounted unit with staff access in Fire Emblem 4 can be bad. Like, there's always something they can do, and with mounted A-staffs, Leaf is essentially Lachesis. I'd argue maybe slightly worse because of no charisma, but honestly, he does everything she does. But he's kinda hard to feed XP. I don't know. He has continue and critical, which means I can more easily break him past arena fights. But he can't staff spam, so he has to get a lot of combat experience. Thankfully, the civilians that I get to rescue in the next chapter, give him a massive booster that he probably wouldn't be able to do it without, but you're gonna have to put a lot of effort into getting him promoted. He comes with Finn, you know, he's returning, everyone loves him. I can't really see anything on his horizon other than a sacrifice. Sorry to the Finn fanboys, of which there are many. Prayer in the Hero Lance was kinda useful in the first generation at a few points to improve reliability, but he's unfortunately an 8-move unit surrounded by a bunch of 9-move units who are much stronger than him, of which I already have 4 who are going to be prioritized in dancing formations, the 4 being Oles, Oife, Leaf, and Cells, meaning that, yeah, I'm sorry Finn, you aren't useful on 0% growth, 2nd generation. But he did stuff in the 1st generation, we can respect him for that. He's lived a long and wholesome life by the standards of characters who come in the 1st generation, so even if he dies, I mean, it's not too bad. And yeah, now I'm honestly running out of things to say because this chapter's really boring, so maybe I'll just discuss a few of the more long-term parts about this generation, and some long-term goals for this chapter. Current long-term goals are very simple. Most turns possible even with growths, and without the rescue staff, so that is very nice. But also, feeding Leaf a bunch of kills, I should be able to get him to make it quite far in the arena because rigging, and he'll be able to buy the elite ring really soon because he has the bargain ring. So I pass it down also because the rescue staff is expensive. Other objectives, kills on the hero sword. It will easily get to 50 kills by the end of this chapter. Kills on the light sword as well. I didn't think it would be useful, but my current strategy for the Run Ritter involves using Shannon with a high kill light sword, like super high kill, so that I can be confident that he'll proc a lot of criticals. So, I mean, whatever I can pick up now. The main gold mine of kills for the light sword, well, will be the next 2 chapters, because of all the Javelin River Knights who attack at 1 to 2 range. And guess what? Oife with the light sword has, and a magic ring with his whopping 8 magic, which is really high for a male paladin, I'd say, can one-round them at 1 to 2 range, and there are a lot of them, so that is a lot of kills, and also an efficient way to clear out enemies, so. But the higher the better, the more reliable the better. Hopefully Shannon with a light sword can wreck a bunch of things with charisma and stuff, but that's quite far down the line, but already planning for these things. I think money distribution will be rather will be much easier though in this chapter, in this generation. I might need to give Leaf a bit of money though to repair stuff. Probably not, because the bargain ring is great. And then besides that, like, I think that maybe Jam might need money to promote, but I think other than that, I may need a few money dumps to help get a less promoted early, but also to just trade around the speed ring between Celis and Layla, because depending on the castle, sometimes it's better for Celis to have the ring, sometimes it's better for Layla to have the ring. And let's just say that past a certain point, Celis won't be clearing many arenas. Even with the Hack's Hero Sword, eventually he'll be outsped and one-shotted, so yeah. Have fun with that, Celis. So I mean, pretty much his money stash is the few arenas he can clear, as well as a large number of sales, because the only item in his inventory that he can never afford to get rid of is the Power Sword, because without that he can't destroy bosses with 2 Hero Sword crits. And just moving units over, really. Most annoying part of the chapter, because it's so tedious to move them all. Fills up video time where there's really no commentary, but yeah. You can see I'm complaining a lot about this castle. It's just so long and not interesting, but I mean, after this, pretty much all of the chapters in this generation will be quite quick after this chapter. I mean, some parts will take absurd amounts of rigging, but maybe a long one too, but from chapter 9 onwards, I'm using the rescue staff all the time, which means pretty much every castle is going to be super short and kind of just rescue skipped, except for a few of the ones in chapter 1, because except for chapter 10, sorry. Because chapter 10 is actually, I think it's one of the much better maps in terms of enemy density and their layout. It can be trivialized, but I think it got some right things going. Okay, here's one of the few interesting things. The AI will go the quicker way towards player character when it's not sure. I made it so that Daisy was 1 square closer than Celis, so it'll go that direction instead of going down and blocking Celis and costing a turn. Because to go around the Dark Mage, he would have to go through a sand tile, which, as you know, does terrible, terrible things to mounted units. And that one square that he didn't, because he didn't go as far as he technically could have, didn't make a big deal for him. It didn't cost me a turn. And so it goes on and on and on, this castle never ending. Let me see, what long-term things can I talk about? Layla is trying to get a fair bit of money. I think she gets all she needs so that she can set it up so that Layla has both access to the Night Ring and the Leg Ring in the next chapter. Which, you know, is very good for her. I'm not 100% sure that I'll be able to get Daisy far enough to talk to her, because let's just say that Layla has some warping duties ahead of her, but I hope to get it to work, let us say. And yeah, just some abuse, a bit of confusion. I'll be rigging Leaf a lot of kills. He's also going to scoop up villages, because he needs money. Yeah, Finn will do a bit of weakening in this map. Like, you'll see the struggle near Leinster going on for a while as Leaf takes advantage of his 6 move to kind of kite around the Armor Knights. Just milking for experience. They're a complete joke with crits on 0% crits. I mean, they 2-shot Leaf, so. kind of worrying. Just because Leaf has somewhat shaky hit rates, because just like Celis, he has the all stats under 10 syndrome. And yeah, Shannon gets the ball skill. Oh, him at 1 health. Shannon is going to get sacrificed later on in the chapter. I won't divulge too much on why right now, but it saves a turn 100%, not like my other sacrifices to increase reliability. It kind of has to be Shannon, I guess. Now that I'm recording this, I'm thinking that maybe I could have given Radney had one of the bad sword twins do it, but then again, there's a good chance that they'll die during other things, so whatever. It's best that it's Shannon. But yeah, I need him reduced to 1 health because, I mean, he's decent defense. If he didn't take as much damage, then he wouldn't die when I want him to. But don't worry, he's not going to stay dead to ever. He's too important to the run. He's going to get resurrected. Which, you know, many of you will be happy about. Because there are lots of Shannon fan girls and boys, both in-game and out of game. Always found it amusing, all the conversations when people talk about how big fans they were of Shannon. I have no idea how it would happen in Medieval World that people would all fangirl over him. Well, no way they can know how handsome he is, but okay. If he's over here to help clear these guys out faster for more money for Leaf, she's gonna head over to Darna, which is where, the entire Chump Brigade tries to match the skills of Orphe and largely fails. But, you know, thank God this is over. This is gonna be 100% honest, this is the complete low point of the run. It all gets better from here. I know how boring this is. 22 minutes of almost nothing strategically, but after this, there's always something going on. Always something going on. Well, except for Chapter 9. But see, sometimes they're boring and unstrategic parts like rescue staff skips, but they usually have the decency to be quick. This is probably the longest video I'm gonna upload, and it's long as hell, so sorry about that. Thank you, and see you guys next time. Next castle will be more interesting. Bye.